Good evening, I'm Maham Tawa with the news-making headlines around the world. Turkey says it cannot lead a ground operation against the IS in Syria on its own as the fight continues in Kobani. At least 36 people are killed in 2 suicide bomb attacks on a protest in Yemen's capital Sana'a and on an army checkpoint. Members of the new Palestinian Unity government meet in Gaza for their first cabinet session in the Gaza Strip. And Hong Kong's government says it's called off a meeting on Friday with pro-democracy leaders after they vowed to step up their protests. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, on the occasion of his country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabir Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. Deputy Premier, Interior Minister, Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs and Acting Minister of Defense Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah opened a new developed DNA lab for genetic fingerprinting at the General Department of Criminal Evidence. Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid stressed the importance of improving the security system and keeping up with the latest security technologies to stop all kinds of crimes. He said the safety of citizens is always a top priority, especially with the current regional and international developments, which call for further attention and hard work to ensure the Security Institute is at the highest level of readiness. The minister made the remarks on the sidelines of a tour to different security departments. He was received upon arrival by the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Interior, Lieutenant General Sulaiman Fahd Al-Fahd, Assistant Undersecretary for Criminal Security Affairs, Major General Abdul Hamid Abdul Rahim Al-Awadi, Acting General Director of the Criminal Evidences Department, Brigadier Adnan Baqir, as well as other top officials. Mr. Al-Khalid then paid a visit to the General Department of Criminal Investigation, where he was received by the Department Director General, Brigadier Mahmoud Ibrahim Al-Tabbagh, as well as other criminal investigation officials. The minister checked the operating room equipped with the latest electronic devices and technologies that provides great support to criminal investigation staff. Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid also visited the Cybercrime Department and listened to the new ways of tackling all types of cyber crimes. The minister then visited the Criminal Investigation Jail and was informed about the procedure of registering and searching inmates. At the end of his tour, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid expressed gratitude to the General Department for Criminal Investigation and Criminal Evidence staff for their relentless efforts. The U.S. Special Envoy in charge of coordinating the U.S.-led military coalition's efforts in fighting the Islamic State group, General John Allen, held a meeting with the Egyptian Foreign Minister and the Chief of the Arab League in Cairo today. The officials discussed the latest developments on tackling the IS militants. Meanwhile, Turkey said it cannot be expected to lead a ground operation against the IS militants in Syria on its own. Nadia Ali has more in this report.
Retired General John Allen, the U.S. envoy charged by President Barack Obama with building the coalition against the IS, met with Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry in Cairo today. The United States is sending Allen, along with U.S. State Department official Brett McGurk, to Turkey today and tomorrow to try to persuade Ankara to do more after Turkey's failure to stop the IS onslaught on the Syrian border town of Kobani. The diplomats were in Amman earlier and are set to meet Arab League Secretary General Nabil Al-Arabi later today. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg held talks in Ankara with Turkish government officials today to push for greater Turkish involvement in fighting IS militants who have captured a large area of Iraq and Syria and are trying to take the Syrian town of Kobani near the Turkish border. Speaking at a news conference following his meeting with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, Stoltenberg welcomed the vote in the Turkish parliament last week, which gave the government new powers to launch military incursions into Syria and Iraq. Turkey's parliament also voted to allow foreign forces to use its territory for possible operations against the IS group. Stoltenberg said the alliance had deployed Patriot missiles in Turkey to enhance and strengthen the air defense of Turkey.
And that's the reason why, as you mentioned, we have deployed Patriot systems in Turkey to enhance the air defense of Turkey. But Turkey being a strong nation itself, having a strong army itself, of course also have great capability itself to defend itself, but we will always be ready to support Turkey in defending itself, because that's part of the alliance, and it's part of the collective security which the alliance is built on.
Turkey has so far not been involved in fighting the extremists across its border with Syria, insisting that it will only consider military action as part of a broader strategy for ending the rule of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Also today, a monitoring group said IS fighters have seized more than a third of the Syrian border town of Kobani, despite U.S.-led airstrikes targeting them in and around the mainly Kurdish community. The commander of Kobani's heavily outgunned Kurdish defenders said the militants controlled a slightly smaller area. However, he acknowledged that the militants had made major gains in the culmination of a 3-week battle that has also led to the worst street clashes in years between police and Kurdish protesters across the frontier in southeast Turkey. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which monitors the country's civil war, said the IS had pushed forward today and now controls all eastern areas of Kobani, a small part of the northeast, and an area in the southeast. The head of the Kurdish militia forces in Kobani said the fighters has seized about a quarter of the town in the east, and street battles are ongoing.
Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said today that an Australian jet fighter has made the country's first airstrike against the IS target in Iraq since the Australian government committed its air force to combat missions. Abbott did not say what type of facility had been attacked or where in northern Iraq it was. Australia has 6 Super Hornets based in the United Arab Emirates. A 200-strong ground force, including special forces, are waiting for legal guarantees from the Iraqi government before they enter that country to advise and assist Iraqi security forces. The Australian troops will not take part in combat. Residents of the Sadr city in Baghdad were at the scene after a car bomb attack killed at least 19 people. More than 30 others were wounded in the blast near a busy marketplace. Local residents and shop owners were today inspecting the damage to their properties. The attack comes after at least 169 people were killed across Iraq last Tuesday. No one claimed responsibility for the attack, though the IS militants were suspected. A suicide bomber killed at least 63 people today when he detonated an explosion-laden belt in a district of the Yemeni capital where the Houthi movement had planned to hold a rally. Medical sources said the casualties included several children. The death toll was expected to climb further, with many of those wounded in serious or critical condition. In a separate incident, at least 20 government soldiers were killed in a suicide car bombing and gun attack in the country's east today. The attacks occurred just hours after a political showdown between the Houthis and President Abderrabbu Mansour Hadi led to the resignation of Prime Minister Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak, whose appointment had angered Houthi leaders. No one has claimed yet responsibility for the attacks, but the incident appears to mirror previous bombings carried out by Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Today witnesses a new change in the Palestinian situation as the new unity government holds its first cabinet session in the Gaza Strip in an effort to unite under one government. More with Majlou Haidi from Gaza.
Palestinian Prime Minister and the members of his unity government arrived in Gaza today for their first cabinet meeting. This is the first visit to Gaza ever by Prime Minister Rami al-Hamadallah. Today means a new change as the cabinet meeting is hoped to put an end to the dispute between Hamas and Fatah, uniting the West Bank and the Gaza Strip under one leadership.
This visit came as a key step in the path of a new change and a critical political move to achievement, reconciliation and unity. The next steps require intensified and united Palestinian efforts to get Gaza out of its darkness.
As soon as the Prime Minister arrived in Gaza through Israel's Erez crossing this morning, positive atmosphere and high expectations prevailed in the battered enclave. The Prime Minister said in a press conference that the government came in order to rescue and rebuild and put years of internal division behind them.
The amount of destruction and the human suffering we see in Gaza today make us believe more in our full responsibility to help our own people and raise up again. We are here today to unite with our brothers, rebuild Gaza and defend our own human rights.
In 2007, a civil war broke between Hamas and Fatah. Since then, Hamas took control of Gaza and the Palestinian Authority controlled the West Bank. But this year, the split got deeper over the salaries of Hamas employees and its security forces. There were also severe humanitarian and financial crises due to the Egyptian blockade and Israel's restrictions and wars. Gazans hope today's meeting will bring a new change, or at least a renewed sense of security and trust.
We need support. We live in a very bad condition because the war left us displaced. We hope the unity government will be honest with us this time and help us in our suffering.
The cabinet meeting is for one full day, and it comes ahead of an international pledging conference where Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas seeks $4 billion for Gaza's reconstruction following the recent war. In all cases, this meeting conveys a strong message to the international donors that Palestinians are ready to move on and start the reconstruction plans. Since the last 8 years, today is the first time a national unity government is meeting here in Gaza. It's not only a political move, but also a historic chance that comes amid war destruction and Gazans yearning for a better future. Majlou Haidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
India and Pakistan today traded warnings over a surge in violence in Kashmir, which has killed at least 19 people. Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif said his country would respond to Indian aggression, but it did not want confrontation. His Indian counterpart Arun Jaitley earlier said Pakistan would be made to pay an unaffordable price if it persisted with the aggression. Each side accuses the other of starting hostilities, which broke out a week ago. At least 19 civilians were killed as troops continue to exchange fire in some of the worst violence in the disputed region in a decade. Of those killed since fighting began last Friday, 11 are from the Pakistani side, while 8 are from the Indian side. Hong Kong's government today called off a meeting on Friday with student leaders of the pro-democracy movement. Chief Secretary Carrie Lam said it would be impossible to have a constructive dialogue after protest leaders called for an increase in efforts to occupy main protest areas. The protesters want a fully free vote in elections due to be held in 2017 for the post of chief executive. Last week, thousands of demonstrators paralyzed parts of the city, but mass demonstrations have largely subsided in recent days. 5 civilians were today killed during intensified shelling in the eastern Ukrainian city of Donetsk. The fresh casualties came amid fighting close to the army-held Donetsk airport. Ukraine's military said rebels launched 4 mortar attacks against their positions at the airport overnight. Artillery strikes continued to be heard today in the city, where deadly clashes between Ukrainian forces and separatist rebels have reduced their ceasefire accord to a truce in name only. World Bank President Jim Yong Kim said today that the economic impact on West Africa will be catastrophic if the world does not invest in controlling the Ebola epidemic. Kim made the comments as the world's finance ministers and central bankers gather in Washington, D.C. for the World Bank and International Monetary Fund's semi-annual meetings this weekend. Meanwhile, top U.S. medical official Thomas Frieden said the Ebola outbreak in West Africa is the worst since the emergence of HIV/AIDS. The director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the world needed to work fast so it does not become the next AIDS. A Liberian doctor was the latest victim of Ebola as he died of the disease at a treatment center in Monrovia. Patrick Modiano of France, whose work focuses on the Nazi occupation and its effect on his country, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature today. The Swedish Academy gave $1.1 million prize to Modiano, who previously won the Prix Goncourt in 1978 for his novel Missing Person. In 2012, he won the Austrian State Prize for European Literature. The awards will be presented on December the 10th, the anniversary of the prize founder Alfred Nobel's death in 1896. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Maham Tawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. Turkey says it cannot lead a ground operation against the IS in Syria on its own as the fight continues in Kobani. At least 36 people are killed in 2 suicide bomb attacks on a protest in Yemen's capital Sana'a and on an army checkpoint. Members of the new Palestinian Unity government meet in Gaza for their first cabinet session in the Gaza Strip. And Hong Kong's government says it called off a meeting on Friday with pro-democracy leaders after they vowed to step up their protests.